Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Week 15 NFL Kickoff Show, the Skew Zone for fantasy and NFL football. We are the Time Skew Podcast. The Skew Zone is a proud part of the Time Skew Podcast. You can check us out at timeskew.com. And you can check us out for our holiday goods and stocking stuffer gifts ideas at timeskew.com/shop and use code STREAMER for 10% off today as well. I'm Tampa Tones, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. We have a couple great guests, and we have Cardboard and Cracker Jacks co-host Bill Granado to talk Bears and fantasy football. He's going to join us here. He's our first guest of the night to kick off the first half of the show, and then eventually down the road at 7:30, we'll have Cody G, a lifelong Bucks fan. He'll be joining the show, talking a little bit about the Buccaneers and a little bit about fantasy football as well. It was his first fantasy football season, actually, so we're going to hear a little bit about his fantasy experience. And then to end the show, we have a special guest, Mike Martinez, Big Rican on sports. We're going to end with the home run, talking Cleveland Browns, dog pound. Man, they're living on the edge. They had a crazy game. I can't wait to ask him about what happened there against the Ravens. If it was the poop gate or what happened with Lamar, maybe he did visit Odell Beckham Jr. to take a poo. Who the hell knows what happened? But I can't wait to see what Mike Martinez has to say about the Cleveland Browns. But nonetheless, here we're going to welcome in our first guest of the night. We're going to get right into fantasy football talk. Then before he leaves, we're going to get into a little Chicago Bears talk. The co-host of Cardboard and Cracker Jacks, along myself and Jake. Here he is, nonetheless, Bill Granado. Bill, how we doing, and where can the people follow you at on Twitter tonight?
I'm great. The people can follow me at bgranats95 on Twitter. And come on, man, don't be taking shots at OBJ like that just because Lamar had to take the Browns to the Super Bowl.
I mean, Lamar came back and Lamar balled on him. Hey, if it is the poop gate, hats off to him. I'm not blaming the guy. He had a hell of a game, a hell of a comeback, because we all know when Taysom McSorley went in, fantasy owners not only held their breath, but so did Ravens fans, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm frozen.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here with the Skew Zone. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm not sure what happened. The internet was a little bunk. It must have booted us. It must have had bad internet. But now we're back. Billy alongside myself. Billy, I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you're back.
Weird. I'm like, oh no, I just ruined the entire podcast. I'm gonna get killed.
I've never had that happen before. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah, we're good. We're here talking fantasy. Taysom McSorley, Baltimore Ravens. That looked ugly. Billy, speaking of ugly, your fantasy season ended with heartbreak, didn't it?
Heartbreak. Yep. Came down to the last game. Nick Chubb ran all over me. I was up 20 points. Nick Chubb had like 23, and that was it. That was it.
I've seen you lost by less than 2 points. That's heartbreaking. I was in 5 fantasy playoffs. I'm advancing in 4. So I was in 8
Oh,
leagues. I made the playoffs in 5, and now I'm in advancing in 4. It hasn't been an easy journey by any means, but just like the NFL season, we keep moving along here in fantasy.
absolutely. You can't go wrong with 4 out of 5.
Yeah, so real quick here, I know you're eliminated, but you're still playing for money. We're in a 2 QB league. I've seen you added Dwayne Haskins today, perhaps. What are your thoughts on him if he starts for Washington football team? Do you think fantasy owners in a 2 QB league should show him a look?
It all depends on Alex Smith's health. I don't know what exactly was diagnosed for him, but anything to that leg that he injured previously cannot be good. I kind of handcuffed myself early on in the season. I traded away 2 of my quarterbacks just for a couple running backs. I needed some support there, so I got handcuffed with Taysom Hill. Not horrible the last couple weeks, but I know his status as a starter is in question with Drew Brees' health. Not sure what's going on there. I think they're kind of being a little bit of a smokescreen with what they're going to do with him. As long as they're solidified in the playoff spot, I can see him kind of taking a back seat until the playoffs, but at the same time wanting to get those reps so he's not coming in cold.
Yeah, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. And I know a lot of fantasy football people and a lot of NFL fans thought Jameis Winston would perhaps be the first one to get those reps and snaps in for the Saints once Drew Brees did go down. However, that turned out to be Taysom Hill. I know he's paid dividends in the running game for your fantasy for sure. Obviously, passing, he gets a little warmer, a little better every week. As I'll pull up Taysom Hill's numbers here shortly. But I remember going into that Broncos game, the laughing joke of the league was, hey, Hinton on the Broncos doesn't have any passing touchdowns. Well, neither Taysom Hill hasn't had any passing touchdowns since about 2016, I want to say it was, in college. So that was interesting. And then obviously a couple weeks ago he had a couple, and then last week he had a couple as well. Billy, you think Taysom Hill is the QB of the future for the Saints, or do you think that Jameis Winston's their guy, or do you think once Drew Brees is done, they're going to go somewhere else?
I want to say yes to both of those options, but I can see them going somewhere else. Taysom Hill, yes, he's got the run game, but his passing isn't there. Jameis Winston has a good passing game, but the interceptions are there. So it's hard to tell, not being able to see Jameis really ball out this year, to see if his LASIK procedure actually helped his vision out on the field. But realistically, I can see Drew Brees playing 1 or 2 more years. Taysom Hill's going to end up going somewhere else. Jameis will end up going somewhere else. They'll end up having to draft a quarterback or, trade up in the draft for one. But I'm actually kind of excited to see what they do, because both Jameis and Taysom have a lot of talent that I would like to see them, produce as a starter.
Yeah, Taysom Hill, he has 4 starts in fantasy football, 4 starts as a quarterback this season. His running numbers are unreal. First start, 10 carries, 49 yards, 2 touchdowns. Next start, 10 carries, 44 yards, 2 touchdowns. At Atlanta, week 13, 14 carries, 83 yards, and last week, 5 for 33. His passing has been up and down, but last week he did have 291 yards and 2 touchdowns, so we'll see if anything could come of that. They are paying Taysom Hill a lot of money, so although he's not been able to throw the ball too well, he's getting paid handsomely. He runs the ball pretty well, and he's led this team to a winning record. So to me, that says maybe they have faith in them. But to me, he's more of a gadget guy. The only reason why he's starting right now is because of what they're paying him. They're not paying Winston a lot of money. I don't know if they have a lot of faith in Jameis. I know what Jameis could do as a Buccaneers fan. He is a hell of a talent, a hell of a fantasy quarterback, as he was number 1 QB in non-negative points for turnovers last year. But with turnovers, it's obviously a different story. Other than that, here from the Bucs to the Bears playoff hopes are dwindling by the game, by the week, seemingly. But they were able to win last week. They provide a spark of hope now. Billy, what's your latest and greatest opinion of the Chicago Bears and where they stand currently heading into week 15 for the NFL playoff picture?
We're in the hunt. We are in the hunt. So at this point, since they won, you got to win the rest of your games. You got to win the Super Bowl because now your record's too good to get a quality draft pick for a quarterback. So you fucked yourself. Good job, Bears. You did a great job. You're just breaking fans' hearts left and right because now you're going to win maybe one more game, get even worse, drafting position, and then you're not going to make the playoffs. And that's just what a waste of a season. What a waste of money on Nick Foles. You brought him in, started 3-4 games, horrible, absolute dog shit.
Which was a little predictable.
Well, as a Bears fan, you want to say a little open-minded. You thought he was going to be better than Mitch. The last 2 games, Mitch looks fantastic. I almost pay him. Let's sign him. Whatever.
And that leads me to this. Do you think if Mitch started this entire season that perhaps the Bears would maybe be in that 7 seed right now instead of the Arizona Cardinals?
There is a possibility with his legs and his ability to move. There is a high chance that could have been a possibility. Nick Foles is a statue back there. He got sacked so many times, just killed drives. Mitch would kill drives by not hitting his targets. I'd rather see a guy at least make a pass and miss him than just get sacked for a 5-yard loss.
Yeah, and actually the Bucs could use the Bears and Trubisky's help this weekend, so you guys can help us by tying. Because if you guys tie, if you and the Vikings tie, if the Bears and Vikings tie and the Buccaneers win, the Bucs clinch a playoff berth, actually. No, it's not likely. I'm not hoping. I mean, I am hoping that happens, a tie, but I don't think it'll happen because, let's be honest, the loser of that game, no team could afford to tie that game because that'll pretty much knock them out. Each of those teams needs a win in order to stay in pursuit for that 7 seed.
Absolutely, and it worries me. Going into today, Darnell Mooney is on the injury list. Khalil Mack is on the list. Jimmy Graham, Buster Screen, and Jalen Johnson. So that's not good, especially with Khalil Mack. I know Jalen Johnson got exposed last time we played the Vikings by Jefferson. So I don't know. They got to change something there. But, hopefully all these guys come back healthy. Otherwise, we're screwed.
Between injuries and COVID, this fantasy and NFL real-life season has been so tough to deal with for these teams. I mean, today alone, here I am, a guy prepared for the playoffs. I'm really getting my finger workout in, going from league to league on my iPhone, going from CBS to Yahoo to ESPN, really critical thinking, put my thinking cap on. No, but for real. And then my freaking kicker, Ryan Suckup in 3 freaking leagues, the Bucs kicker, has COVID. In the playoffs. In the damn playoffs.
But that sucks.
You know how much that makes me want to just smack myself around, make me want to just, do the Jake Paul with the Jamel Hill interview.
Oh. Hey, you can always sign Cody Parkey. Pick him up. I'm sure he's on the waivers.
Yeah, after Monday, I'm sure he is. Damn it, he had almost a couple replicas of the double doink on Monday. That guy's a joke. Or I'm sure the Vikings kicker is probably available. He missed 3 damn kicks against the Bucs. But not only is he on the COVID list, now Ronald Jones is on the COVID list. I mean, if you're a fantasy football owner, Billy, who are some really low-key potential running backs out there? I don't know. I know it's a stretch, but when you have a last-minute replacement, do you have anyone on your roster in our deep league in mind that perhaps is available in ESPN leagues out there to help people?
I'd have to take a look, but
I know I'd go for Leonard Fournette. I mean, I know he's still owned in a lot of leagues, but he might be perhaps dropped in a couple now, and he could be starting for the Bucs this week if Ronald Jones is obviously out with COVID and surgery with the pin in his hand.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's so late in the season that most people have already picked up a backup here and there just in case. I know in our league, Cordero Patterson, who is used in the run and pass game for the Bears, is an option. Ito Smith, who got a couple of carries last week. He's not horrible. He had a couple of carries. Trying to think who else. Sony Michel, if you want to trust the Patriots running game. They have like 3 running backs that they don't know who to give the ball to.
Solvin Ahmad, if you trust him coming back from injury, but Miami.
He was good though. He looked really good the games that he was in.
Yeah, the 3 games he was in, he had 7 carries for 38 yards, 21 carries for 85 yards, and a touchdown, and then 12 carries for 43 yards before suffering an injury. And in that last game as well, he had 5 receptions for 31 yards. The thing with fantasy football this year, too, which made it really tough, was the running back situations on a lot of teams are now timeshares. So a lot of those teams, if you don't own the main guy, it really sucks. But it is kind of, I mean, like, early on in the year, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick was such a big, who's going to have a better game? It's just tough with guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy, since you did lose Rojo, you can always pick up Shady McCoy. He looked pretty good in their game. He was running the ball pretty well. You never know with Tampa Bay. They literally broke the record this year for the least amount of runs attempted in a game with, I think, 4. What is Bruce doing over there?
Yeah, sometimes we struggle to run the ball, and honestly, the Buccaneers offense, I'm not afraid to admit it runs through Ronald Jones, so that's what makes me a little afraid of us losing Ronald Jones. I know he's not your prototypical. I know you'd have people be like, it does not run through Ronald Jones. You guys have Tom Brady. You guys have Rob Gronkowski. You guys have... Well, listen here. A win against Minnesota, Jones had 18 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. A win against Green Bay, 23 carries, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. A close loss, shorthanded Thursday Night Football on the road to a good Chicago defense, 17 carries for 106. A win against the Chargers, 20 carries for 111 yards. Against the Raiders, he had a touchdown in that game. Against Carolina, our best game of the year, he had 23 carries for 192 yards and a touchdown. He's currently the NFL's 4th leading rusher. So currently, when he got 3 carries in that game against the Saints, I wanted to smack the hell out of the Buccaneers coaching staff that game. Because, they got killed for a reason. Because when you take your best offensive player out of the game, what do you think's going to happen? And then people are like, oh, why don't the Bucs use play action more? Well, here's a cue. You can't use play action if you don't run the football. So if you don't run the football to Ronald Jones, you're not going to be able to use play action. And if you're not going to be able to use play action, you don't get Tom Brady at some of his best. Because let's be honest, there's nobody better at play action than Tom Brady.
Absolutely.
And we've seen it last week. He still got the deep ball in him. He threw a deep one to Scotty Miller. So the Bucs are interesting there. The NFL this season is interesting. And real quick, before we let you go, we got you for a couple more minutes here, Bill. Super Bowl, obviously still weeks and weeks away, but the playoffs are nearing. Who do you like from the AFC? Who do you like from the NFC? Who do you got meeting up in the 2021 Super Bowl hosted in the city of Tampa Bay?
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
And while you think about it real quick, did you hear about the cool thing that the NFL wanted to do today with fans and healthcare workers and whatnot?
Yeah, that's awesome. They want to bring vaccinated healthcare workers. Is that correct?
Yep. Roger Goodell and the NFL put out a memo today saying that they would like to bring in any vaccinated healthcare workers that would maybe want to attend the Super Bowl. I think that's a great thing to do for healthcare workers. Heck, I know your mom and sister are nurses, Bill. Tell them to get vaccinated. Tell them to apply. I mean, really, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in the game. It's a Super Bowl game. It might not be open to a lot of people outside of vaccinated healthcare workers. You never know.
Yeah, my mom is supposed to get the vaccine, I think, tomorrow. But they postponed it because I guess they didn't get their shipment yet. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But your question about the AFC versus NFC, the AFC is so good. I cannot wait to watch these playoffs with the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Bills, what Tractor Cedo, Hunter Henry can do in this cold weather. You never know with the Browns. They haven't won a playoff game. They haven't been to the playoffs since what, 2000, early 2000s?
Yeah, so actually it's funny. The Buccaneers and the Browns currently hold the 2 longest playoff droughts in the NFL. The last time the Bucs made it was in 2007, and the last time the Browns made it was in 2003, I believe. So two teams there vying for the playoffs.
Okay, so my prediction, let's go with the State Farm Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. one of the best of all time, Aaron Rodgers. He's so fun to watch. He's got no receivers. He's never had, top-notch receivers. He makes them. So he's so fun to watch. And then, Patrick Mahomes, who I'm sorry for your boy Brady, the GOAT. This kid's going to be the GOAT. He's unbelievable. I can't take my eyes off him. He's one of the best I've ever seen. It's only been 3 years.
Yeah, his talent is limitless. His arm potential is limitless. There is no ceiling for him, and the floor is higher than the Willis Tower or the Sears Tower. I mean, this guy is incredible. I think he has the most potential of any quarterback that we've seen in the NFL. It's just what he does with it. He already has 1 Super Bowl. Let's see if he could be like Brady and get to 6. We'll see if Brady we'll see if he could pass Brady. We'll see. Other than that, I do like your picks there. I think that 12 versus Mahomes would be interesting. Packers, Chiefs are probably looking like the safe bet to make right now, as the Steelers have been losing. But I'm going with my preseason prediction. Obviously, I'm a Bucks guy. I'm going with Bills against the Bucks, and the Bills have actually looked pretty good lately. The Bills are playing some good football. They need to get lucky. They need to have the Chiefs go down or something. But if that does happen, Billy, how do you feel about the Bills?
I love the Bills. Talk about another young quarterback that's really fun to watch and finally coming into his own. His completion percentage wasn't the best coming into this year, and the steps this guy has made, Josh Allen, has been incredible. His game against the Steelers ran all over him. He was phenomenal.
And how big of an acquisition was Stephon Diggs? I mean, he's been popping off. Josh Allen averages 26.5 fantasy points per game. There's games where he's been incredible this year. Touchdowns. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rushing touchdowns and a boatload of passing touchdowns. This guy's a real deal. And a lot of people hated on the Bills at the point in time in the 2018 NFL draft when the time came, and they selected this kid Josh Allen out of Wyoming, and here we are years later. The QB's taken in the first round in that draft. He might be the best of them. You had Baker Mayfield, who's doing good, but let's be honest, Josh Allen's better. Let's be honest. Josh Allen's better right now, at least. Not saying that can't change, but Allen's better. Then you got Sam Darnold struggling in New York. You got Josh Rosen, who's barely holding a clipboard in Tampa. You got Lamar Jackson, who's obviously doing pretty good.
MVP, no big deal.
Yeah, MVP, no big deal. And then you got Josh Allen. So this year, Josh Allen's probably the best of any of them, but obviously Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you can't go wrong. But that was a highly touted, highly coveted quarterbacks class, especially in fantasy football. There's some big name ones in there. Real quick here before we let you go, Bill, I just want to talk about the NFC East now. Some call it the NFC least. Who do you think's coming out of there? Philly made a change in Jalen Hurts. It's probably a little too late for them. Dallas, obviously, with Mike McCarthy, first season didn't go as planned. Coming down to the Washington Football Club against Giants, it seems like. Who do you like?
The NFC Beasts is what I call it. I love the football club. I don't. How do you take a team from absolute dog crap to this? You had no quarterback. Week 2, Haskins got benched. Kyle Allen, get him out of here. They bring in Alex Smith, who was just lighting it up. Sucks that he got injured last game, but he had a little Kurt Schilling moment with the bloody sock. Oh man. That's what a story for him.
Yeah, it was an incredible story. That bloody sack looked little bloody, man. I don't know what the hell happened there, but it did not look good for the big guy for a little bit. But 2 heartwarming stories in Washington. Not only did they change their name this offseason, but 2 stories on top of that. Ron Rivera battled through cancer, and he's still coaching through COVID. Hats off to him. And then, as you said, Alex Smith almost lost his life at one point in time in the hospital to a bunch of viruses. Leg damn near amputated, overcame everything in the book. So you love to see, they're beast, and really it depends to me on their success if Antonio Gibson could get healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And put a note on the Giants. What a nice year they've ended up having. Losing Saquon, they got was it Gallman just running over everybody. He's having himself a really nice year. Daniel Jones hasn't been playing terrible. Their defense is coming into their own. For them, you can't be disappointed with how they finished their season. You thought they would lose most of their games.
Yeah, and let's be honest here too. Exactly right. When Saquon Barkley went down, as you said, a lot of people chalked up their year. They lost a couple close ones in the beginning of the year. And then the NFC East kept losing. And then next thing you know, the Giants were in first, and now they're a game back. But they do have 2 wins, not one, but they do have 2 wins over Washington. So although they're a game back, if the Giants could somehow finish with the same record as Washington, they'll actually make the playoffs over Washington. To me, Washington's a superior of the 2 for the NFL playoffs. But the Giants, obviously, shout out Myron Chapman. They deserve it with the year they're having. Wayne Gallman, as you said, very good. And their new head coach, Joe Judge, has done good as well. Billy, real quick here. Bears, they going to keep Nagy and Pace, or are they goners?
I hope not. I hate them. I don't know what they would do. It's hard because you can blame it on COVID in the crazy season of missing guys through COVID. We haven't really missed anybody through COVID, so I don't think that's that much of an excuse, other than the practices being a little bit shady. But yeah, I hope Pace is gone. I hope Nagy bothers me as a play caller because he doesn't want to run the ball. But like as a rah, let's go out there and get them. Like you can get behind the positive attitude at some points, but the play calling is just so bad that it can only get you so far having a good attitude.
And what happens at quarterback? I know you said pretty much you want Foles gone. Is Trubisky going to be the QB of the Bears next year, or is that regime-based? Do you think they bring him back if they bring the boys back, or do you think that the Bears' quarterback position is very much so under siege?
Yeah, I think it'll be a very, very small chance that they bring him back. I can see them getting rid of Foles. Hard to get rid of somebody that you're paying so much for, but I'd rather keep Mitch than Foles, but I'd rather, start fresh than have either of them.
Yeah, and I think that's always tough on a franchise when to wave the white flag on a first-round pick, especially one where in the same class came Mahomes and Watson. But at the same time, it has to be done. Trubisky, to me, obviously the Bears have an outside chance of making the playoffs. But to me, if he doesn't get them to the playoffs, maybe sign him back as a competitor for the opener and draft a rookie quarterback and kind of, pass the ropes from Trubisky to that rookie. Don't franchise tag him though, because then you're going to end up paying him $30 million. If you're the Bears, you just don't want to get handcuffed, into the money long-term deal. The next thing you know, boom, Trubisky ends up being who he thought he was coming into the year. Bill, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. Where can the people follow you at on Twitter?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. The people can follow me at bgranats95 on Twitter and give me a follow. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We just did Cardboard and Cracker Jacks. Check us out on timeskew.com. And then now we're doing this. Bill, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, you too. Have a nice night.
You too. That was Bill Granado, co-host of Cardboard and Cracker Jacks there. Great guy, great sports brain. He coaches baseball and hockey, and he does fantasy football. He's been around football his whole life, been around sports his whole life. So just a real good brain there, and I think I agree with him on most of his Bears points. I think that they do have to draft somebody. I think that they do have quite an offseason of decisions ahead of them. What's going to happen at GM, what's going to happen at head coach, what's going to happen at quarterback. One thing for sure is the Bears definitely have their running back and wide receiver. Hopefully, if they do decide to bring Allen Robinson back, they would have what looks like one of the more upside out of their running back wide receiver combos in football, the way Montgomery's running, especially for fantasy owners. If fantasy owners did stick patient with Montgomery and hold on to him, these past 4 out of the past 5 weeks he's played have been paying off. Week 8 against the Saints, he had 21 carries for 90 yards. 2 catches for 16 yards, and he had a down week against Tennessee. He missed against Minnesota, had a bye week, and then week 12 against Green Bay, he played incredible football. Had 11 carries only, but for 103 yards, and had 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown, equating to 20.3 points in standard non-PPR formats. And the next week against Detroit in non-PPR formats, he had 17 carries for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns to go along with 4 grabs for 39 yards, which equated into 23.1 points. And then against Houston, he had 11 carries for 113 yards and a touchdown with 3 receptions for 42 yards, equating into 21.5 points. So Montgomery's been on the up and up there at the running back position, and maybe that's the Bears' key to success, and that's a great sign for fantasy owners to have Montgomery in. And then we got a Bucks guest coming in shortly, Cody G. But real quick before that, we'll look and see the success that Allen Robinson has brought to fantasy owners and the Bears this year. And this is a guy that some Bears people want to let go, not Bears fans, obviously, but people in the front office. And I think it'd be dumb, as Allen Robinson has produced the 11th best amount of points per standard league fantasy footballers this year. They have last week he had 9 catches, 123 yards and a touchdown. 2 weeks before that, 8 catches, 74 yards and 2 touchdowns against Green Bay. So really, Montgomery and Allen Robinson are 2 guys that the Bears and their fans have perhaps learned to lead on the past couple of weeks, and perhaps may lead on in their future if they want a young rookie quarterback to maybe pair up with those weapons, give him some good weapons to go along with, and give him a chance to win games next year. Now, real quick, our next guest is a great one. It's Mr. Cody G from Bucks Twitter. We'll bring him in here shortly. He's a lifelong Buccaneers fan. He just knows the game of football well, and it was his first year in fantasy football. So we'll ask him some questions and insight on how he liked his first year ever in fantasy. Without further ado, we're going to bring in Cody. Cody, how we doing? You're now live on the Skew Zone.
What's up, Tones? How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you? Thanks for being able to join us tonight.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, now, Cody, real quick, before we get into Buccaneers and fantasy football talk, where can the people follow you at on Twitter?
At CodyG417.
All right, you heard it here first. Go check him out at CodyG417 if you're a Buccaneers fan especially. But if you're a football fan, go give him a follow. Very much so worth it. Cody, real quick here, fantasy before we get into Buccaneers talks. It was your first year of playing fantasy, isn't that correct?
Yeah, it was.
And how did you like playing fantasy football? Would you do it again next year? Did you have a good time?
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so first time, it takes some people time, but obviously they like it. Whether you're new, don't be hesitant to jump into the game of fantasy football. It's never too late. Like I said, you never know, Cody. You could be in it for years to come, too. Hopefully we get that league back going next year.
I will say it's easier than I was expecting. So anybody hesitant thinking it's going to be time consuming or anything like that, I wouldn't worry about any of that. It's easy to do. It's especially with all us guys in the group chat. It's been fun. The banter back and forth, all that. Definitely had fun with it.
Are you still alive, or did you get eliminated in that league?
I won last week, so I am still alive. I beat Kenny, I believe it was last week.
Wow, look at that. A first-year guy going to another playoff round, so that's pretty cool. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And, yeah, you heard Cody. Don't be hesitant. A lot of people say they don't want to play fantasy because of the time, the consumption of time it takes up. But to be honest, all you really got to do, wake up, and when you're on, whether you're making your damn coffee in the morning or whether you're using the men's room, you set your fantasy lineup on Thursday, on Saturday, on Sunday, and then make your waiver wire moves, obviously, on Monday or Tuesday.
Yep, not much to it.
Yep, not much to it. Now, not much to it. Totally opposite than not much to it. We're going to talk Buccaneers football here. Cody, it's been a wild week. We've seen now 4 Buccaneers go down to COVID, and actually 5, because I believe that they said Greg Joseph, our practice squad kicker, was close contacts with those other guys. What's your take here on the potential outbreak situation? Ryan Suckup went down, our kicker. Zach Triner, our long snapper, went down. Our punter went down, and Bradley Pinion, and like I said, practice squad kicker Greg Joseph went down as he was in close contact. And now Ronald Jones went down, and he had surgery on his hand as well. What are the Buccaneers look like heading into a Week 15 divisional matchup with the Falcons?
Well, I hope that's the end of it. Hopefully, no more players have it. As far as the kickers, I would have been a lot more worried about it last week. I mean, if we play anywhere near how we should play, the kickers really shouldn't play much of a factor. We should easily win this game, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I'm just worried, hopefully no one else gets it. They might end up postponing the game. Then we're playing on a short week, so I don't know. Hopefully this is the end of it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. That's exactly what my take on it as well. Hopefully that's the end of it, because I don't know about you, but I was like, okay, the 3 special team guys were unfortunate, but I thought it obviously end there. And then all of a sudden when I heard Ronald Jones there today, my first thought is, oh my, hopefully this doesn't spread to, a Tom Brady or a Gronk or an Evans type.
Yeah, even if it was just the running back room, that would be an issue. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking, obviously I don't know. I'm just guessing, but he had surgery on his finger. So I'm thinking, hopefully it was at like an outside place and maybe that's where he got it and he hasn't been back around him. But, obviously I don't know if that is the case. But I figured they were probably going to hold Rojo out this week anyway. We're playing Atlanta, and to me, I would much rather have him healthy for this playoff run. We need him in the playoffs. We should be able to get by without him versus Atlanta.
Yeah, I know we talked in the Red and Pewter group chat as well that some people like Kenny, and if you guys don't know, go check out Kenny on the Buck What You Heard podcast, good podcast. But Kenny said pretty much that, and him and Kunel both said that Rojo should be maybe held out. Cody said that as well. A couple people didn't mind that thought, and I told Cody Rojo wasn't supposed to practice until Friday anyways. So, Cody, I hope you're right in the fact that maybe the Buccaneers and us fans got lucky, that obviously not lucky that he has it, but lucky in the fact that he hasn't been around this team. Maybe if his plans weren't to practice until Friday, maybe he wasn't with those running backs in close contact. Maybe he wasn't around Brady or any of those guys. So we just have to hope that the Buccaneers don't take the Tennessee Titans route on this one. We have to hope that it is the end here, because if our running back room did go down, last week Leonard Fournette was inactive, thank God. So who knows if he's been around. Hopefully either him, Vaughn, McCoy, somebody would be available. If not, I'm not even sure who he dig to, as Barner has been around those guys now too, as he's been active and back. So I don't know. With these COVID protocols, it's difficult to just bring anyone in the building, as well as they have to pass a certain amount of COVID tests, and that takes a couple-day period. And it's already Wednesday, with Thursday being tomorrow. So say if the Buccaneers start getting more of a flare-up tomorrow, that wouldn't be a good thing. But let's hope that's not the case. Other than the COVID news going on, we do have a big divisional game coming up here, Week 15 against the Falcons. Cody, what are your thoughts on this game? We're coming off against a great win against Minnesota. Now, could we make it 2 in a row against Atlanta? What's your predictions?
I think we do beat them. We obviously should beat them. The game means a lot more to us than it does to them. I will say Atlanta, they're better than their record. They've been playing pretty good since Raheem took over. But, obviously, this is a team we should beat. We've got the playoffs on the line. Kicker, running back. To me, short of losing Tom Brady or something like that, this is a team we should easily beat. So I'm hoping, obviously, that's what happens.
And I'm not sure if you've seen, but I forget. I think it might have been Allman or Stroud, but one of them got to catch up with Raheem Morris earlier. And I love that you bring up Raheem Morris, former Bucs coach. He sounded like he's out for vengeance. He said, I hope that we could bring their playoff chances to a screeching halt. Obviously, we play them 2 out of the last 3 games of the year, with Detroit sandwich in between on a Saturday. Cody, what are your thoughts on that quote of Raheem Morris saying he hopes that he could bring the Buccaneers' playoff chances to 0?
I take back every good thing I've ever said about him. No, I'm just kidding. I always like Raheem. I don't blame him. I hope he does try and win, but obviously I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I think we beat them by minimum. I would say something in the neighborhood of like 27-13. So I mean, they just don't do anything very good. I think the big key will be our pass rush. If our pass rush plays like it did last week, yeah, I don't think they have a chance. I think that would be their own. They're not going to run the ball on us. We pretty much know that, and our pass rush looked pretty good last week. So Matt Ryan's not the most mobile guy. Shaq ate his lunch last year, so hopefully that happens again this year.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that was funny. You take back every good thing, but yeah, Raheem Morris was our coach for a few years, and then bounced around, and then went to Atlanta. I think this week's game, I think like you said, the Bucs should handle him. It really does depend too if Julio Jones, he's killed the Bucs before, so if Atlanta's without Julio, that would be huge for the Bucs. A couple other notes from Greg Allman. He said that the Bucs added returner Jaden Mickens to their practice squad protections for the week. Cody, I think you might have hit the nail on the head there. Do you think that might be foreshadowing? Perhaps Kenyon Barner might have been around Ronald Jones, and I don't know, maybe he ends on the COVID list, so maybe they're like, all right, well, we got to protect Mickens because before you know it, we don't want to be without a kick and punt returner.
I think it's probably either that and I hope it was that, or it was maybe Rojo was around Leonard and Shady, and he's thinking he might need Kenyon as our running back, and he doesn't want him returning kicks also, would be my guess on those two things.
That would be wild. I mean, nothing against Kenyon because back in the day, he was on the Patriots. He had one or two starts in them, and he's familiar with Gronk and Brady, and he's won a Super Bowl. But obviously, when you have guys like Rojo, Fournette, LaShawn McCoy, even Keyshawn Vaughn, you don't really want a guy like Barner starting. So I think that's a very interesting take on it. Perhaps that they are elevating Jaden Mickens to the protection clause, perhaps too. Maybe they have to have Barner play a bigger role. That'll be interesting to see. Hopefully the Bucs COVID tests do come back negative throughout the rest of the week. Cody, we're 8-5. Many fans predicted 10-6. Many fans predicted 11-5. Anywhere from 9 wins to 12 wins really was the expected for this Bucs team. What were your preseason expectations? Are they following suit here? And what are the rest of the way thoughts about this Bucs team?
We are about in line. I figured the floor was around 10 wins. And once I saw our schedule, I was thinking, especially with the crazy offseason, I was thinking 12, 13 wins max. So I'm thinking, what I think happens, I think we win 10. I think by the last game versus Atlanta, I think we've got playoffs locked up, and we're probably resting our starters. So we might still win that. We might not. So I'm thinking around 10, 11 wins, which was, about what I thought would happen. Couple games like the Chicago game sticks out. I still think we should have won that game. Just a bad, sloppy game. But I don't know. We're about where I expected. I know a lot of people are saying Super Bowl and bust. I thought realistically next year would be our best chance for a Super Bowl. It's just you can bring a guy like Tom Brady, but you're bringing him to a team that we're not used to winning. It takes a little while to gel. Then there was no off season. It's just, it's just not easy. So I honestly, obviously I would love to win a Super Bowl, but I didn't think that was super realistic. Not, it could obviously happen. I wouldn't be completely shocked, but I just don't know how realistic with the offseason we've had winning a Super Bowl this first year with Tom Brady is.
Yeah. Once again, we're joined here by Cody G in the Skew Zone, proud member of Time Skew podcast. I do think Cody just made a great point. My preseason expectations were to that exactly. I predicted about 10 or 11 wins. I predicted one playoff win, hopefully. I know our good friend Andrew Katzman, A-Cat, did the same as well. I think he said one playoff win or bust. I agree with that. I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust this year. Obviously, it takes time to learn how to win. If it were that easy, I think all these teams in the NFL would be trying to assemble these super teams every year and trying to hit restart and bringing the best guys in. No, That's not how it works. It's real life. Yes, it's Tom Brady. Yes, it's Bruce Arians. Yes, it's Mike Evans. Yes, it's all these high-profile guys and guys like Gronk and Sue and JPP and Brady who have been or who have won Super Bowls before. But at the same time, we got to pump the brakes. As you said, the Buccaneers haven't won in a long time. In fact, we haven't been to the playoffs since 2007, which is the second longest streak in the NFL, only besting the Cleveland Browns. So maybe two things that could end this year, the Browns and the Bucks playoff streaks, but we'll see. Yeah, I think, I don't know, it makes me laugh, Cody, because I think Super Bowl and bust and obviously wanting to win the Super Bowl are completely different. I think fans and guys like me and yourself could sit here and say, obviously, no shit, we want to win the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, it's not, Super Bowl or bust and wanting to win the Super Bowl are two totally different statements.
Yeah, I just, I try and be realistic. We can get hot, and I would definitely never bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. I mean, it could definitely happen for us. I would not be surprised. But as far as my expectations at the start of the season, obviously it's the best chance we've had since we won a Super Bowl. I would say that. I felt like that, but I still think next year is probably our best chance. But if we get hot these last few games, I mean, we have the talent to beat anybody. I don't think there's anybody in this league we can't beat if we play good. So obviously it can still happen, but if we make the playoffs and don't win the Super Bowl, I'm not going to be mad about it. And I'm not going to feel like it was a wasted year and we made the wrong decision with Jameis or anything like that. I mean, this team's better. We're better than we were last year. That's what every team tries to do in the offseason. They try and get better. We're better. So whether or not, we get the Super Bowl or not, we'll see. But, we've both seen a lot of crazy talk on Twitter. And everybody knows what side's mad about the quarterback, and they're the ones making all these ridiculous claims. I don't know. It's silly to me. Hopefully we win a Super Bowl. Obviously, that's what I'm pulling for, but I just don't know how realistic that really is.
Yeah, I'm hoping we could win a Super Bowl, but I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, I think it would just be awesome to watch some Buccaneer playoff football. Obviously, I hope we win, but at the very least, we went 7-9 last season. So winning 3 in a row to end the year, even if a disastrous 3-game losing streak did end the year, they'd still end with a better record than last year. Not saying 8-8 is good at all by any means. Don't get it wrong, but it would still be better than last year. And I think a lot of Bucks fans are stuck in the mode that, we signed this guy, we signed that guy, so we have to be perfection. We have to win the Super Bowl this year. Well, at the end of the day, to me, it's playoffs or bust. We get to the playoffs, we win a game. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Tom Brady, he's the best quarterback ever, but he was with New England for a long time. He knew that system in and out. It takes time. I don't care who you bring over. It takes time. The players got to click. He had to learn a new offense. We've had a lot of injuries this year. Evans seems like he's been banged up most of the year. Godwin's missed some time. So I definitely do still think we can get hot and definitely make some noise in the playoffs. I saw some things last week for Minnesota that gave me hope as far as the play calling on offense. Running. We're starting to run motions and stuff, things that I've been wanting us to do for a while, kind of simplify things, kind of calm down a little bit on all the deep threats. But if we can just get hot and get me in the playoffs, we'll take it from there.
Yeah, end of the year on a 4-game win streak, being 11-5, especially with this schedule to end the year with Detroit Falcons. If we could win at least 2, get double-digit playoffs, and play some really good football, I like the momentum, the wave we would ride. Cody, any last words? It's been great having you here tonight. Any last words for the Skew Zone?
Nope. Thanks for having me. Go Bucks.
Yep, go Bucks, and thanks again, Cody. I hope you have a great night.
All right, buddy. You as well.
Thanks, Cody. And that was Cody, a lifelong Buccaneers fan. Thanks again. I think he brought up some tremendous points about the Bucks. And really, man, I could talk to Cody all night about the Bucks. I'm disappointed that it's already creeping towards the 8 o'clock hour. But something to make people happy is we are joined by a great guest coming up here. And that is Mike Martinez from the Big Rican on Sports. We'll bring him in here in a second. I think it's kind of funny because the Buccaneers, my team, and the Browns, his team, are the two longest tenured teams not to make the playoffs in the NFL. And then here we are. Both are primed like a primed rib to make the NFL playoffs. Monday night was rough for his team, but we've had, the Bucs have had our fair share of roughness. So both teams are still looking in great shape to make the playoffs. Without further ado, we're going to bring the man, the myth, the legend in, Big Rican himself. Big Rican, how we doing, man? Thanks so much for being able to find time.
Anytime, Tone. It was a bunch of fun a couple weeks ago. And like I said, I would have done last week, but I was doing row 7 with Alex last Wednesday. So I'm glad you get me on tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us tonight. And I love row 7. Go check him out, people. By the way, row 7 podcast. My brother's actually doing a thing on there right now with Cleveland. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, thanks so much. We had a great time a couple weeks back talking Cleveland Browns. Now a couple weeks later, we're stumbling into the playoffs. Man, that Monday night game was perhaps the game of the year.
I think it was the game of the year. And I hope the audio sounds good. I got a new microphone. So
it sounds better than ever, man. I was going to say it sounds freaking fantastic.
Yes, I knew that couple of bucks I spent on Amazon would be worth it. But no, in all seriousness, Monday night was good and bad. Let's say that. Here's where it was good. Anybody in Cleveland's questions about Baker Mayfield being the franchise quarterback have either been answered or you're just a hater. The defense left a lot to be desired. But when you don't have Ronnie Harrison and you don't have Denzel Ward and you didn't have Grant Delpit all year and you don't have Greedy Williams, you're going to have these problems. But my biggest issue was the team that held Derrick Henry to 60 yards on the ground the week before couldn't stop a nosebleed with Lamar and JK and Gus Edwards. So tough loss. I think it proves the Browns are for real with the way they kept coming back. And, we got the 2 weeks in New York coming up. So, they win these 2 games, which are expected to. You get to 11 wins. The worst you are is 11-5, and I see the 5 seed.
Yeah, and I think the Browns are sitting pretty here. They really just can't blow a gasket because they do have the head-to-head with the Colts. And they have a couple other key wins, and they're sitting in a good place. Miami and Raiders both lost last week, and the Raiders pretty much look down and out at this point. So I think the Browns are pretty much, certified for the playoffs. Their running game is perhaps the best in the league. I mean, Nick Chubb looks incredible week in and week out. I do think, though, I'm in agreement with you here. I was a little concerned to see I know the Ravens have a good ground attack, but after the tremendous effort they put forth against Derrick Henry, it was a little concerning to see the Ravens have their way with their run defense.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little tough for me to watch, but I will say this. Lamar is a lot more dynamic than Derrick Henry when it comes to being a runner. Derrick Henry is, for lack of a better term, a battering ram. Lamar is the best running back in the NFL with the ability to throw the ball every now and again. So I was more concerned with scheme on Monday night than I was with anything else. Against the Ravens, you need to have 8 in the box. You can't not have 8 in the box. Taki is a good enough coverage linebacker, in my opinion, to take care of the tight end, which leaves, unfortunately, 2 guys who shouldn't be sniffing the field on your wide receivers. But listen, I was so impressed with Baker Mayfield Monday night. And I've been on the Baker train since they drafted him. I was so impressed Monday night with the way he played. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Yep. Speaking of the 2018 draft, which Baker Mayfield is from, and he's been playing incredible. I've been a fan of his not only in real life, but fantasy. He's pretty serviceable as well. But speaking of the 2018 draft, the Cleveland Browns have a member from the Bucs 2018 draft class. I think you just mentioned him kind of. MJ Store is playing a lot of defensive back. What have you seen from MJ in Tampa? It wasn't good. I don't think it's going too good in Cleveland either.
I've seen too much of his back, Tone. Chasing down people he just can't cover. The speed level of the I almost said Ohio State because I'm geared out for Saturday. The speed level of the Browns secondary with no Delpit and no Greedy and no Denzel went from here to here. And now you can't see my hand in the screen. It's been rough going, and especially with a quarterback like Lamar, you can't. I mean, they sacked him 4 times, But if you don't get immediate pressure, he's going to kill you every time.
Yeah, and you can't really blame the Browns either for lacking that speed. I mean, nobody plans to have, their top 3 dogs missing more than, their top 4. I mean, yeah, that just sums it up right there. Imagine your favorite team with your top 4 guard dogs out. It wouldn't end good. So, yeah, that does lead to guys like MJ Stewart starting in this football league. So, I think are any of those guys expected to come back anytime soon?
Well, Greedy, it's a nerve issue in the shoulder, so we're not sure. But he's the way he's talked on social and the way Kevin Stefanski has mentioned it, it sounds like he's going to play. I would say the Jet game and the Steeler game to get ready for the playoffs. Denzel, it's a strained calf. You never know with that thing. Wyatt Teller was out 4 games with that. See, I'm Ohio State going because I said Wyatt Davis. If you couldn't tell, I'm getting ready for.
We got a big Ohio. We'll talk about that on the show. It's going to be fantastic Saturday, Ohio State Northwestern.
Yeah. But Denzel should be back hopefully this week against the Giants. Grant Delpit tore the Achilles in training camp. Ronnie Harrison has been hurt. Carl Joseph's been great. Don't get me wrong. And Sendejo's been serviceable, but the Browns basically don't have their entire, what would have been their opening day secondary right now. You don't have Denzel and Greedy on the outside, and you don't have Grant Delpit and Ronnie Harrison in the middle. So it's rough sledding for them right now, but I understand it. What I don't understand is how the defensive coordinator is not making adjustments in game to scheme a little better, especially after Lamar lit them up on the ground in the first half.
Yeah, and then as you see here, we got a comment coming in from Cody G saying LMAO seen too much of his back. MJ isn't good. I think a lot of people know MJ isn't good. Do you think it's only a matter of time before he's bounced, or do you think that the Browns, he's in their contingency playoff plans?
He's going to have to be in their playoff plans because of the depth issue. Right now, the only safeties who are healthy are Sheldrick Redwine, some cast off that someone was talking about today on one of the shows I listened to, and Carl Joseph, because Sendejo got hurt on the 2-point conversion. He's in the concussion protocol.
And you never know how long that could last either, the concussion protocol.
Yeah, I mean, he got his bell rung pretty good. So, unfortunately, MJ is going to have to play. Now, going into the next 2 weeks, there aren't really any vertical threats that you're going to have to worry about, nor with Danny Dimes having the leg issue going on and it being the Jets. I don't see where you're going to get burned in the running game. Now, Frank Gore, I don't know if he played this past week. I know he was in concussion protocol too.
He might as well not have.
He didn't show up?
No, I mean, that whole team, man, they were just non-existent at Seattle. That was hard to watch.
Poor Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to get sucked into the New York abyss. And I mean, it's kind of been, I think you're really grateful probably that the Browns do have the Jets upcoming. I think it's kind of funny because we've been on the Adam Gase apology tour lately. Every Monday or Tuesday, he's coming out with a new apology he's making. A couple weeks ago, he apologized to Sam Darnold for letting him down. Then he apologized to Jets fans for not, having Sam Darnold as developed as he should be. And now, I don't know if you've seen it, just today, he actually apologized to the Jets ownership for letting them down.
Has he apologized for anyone thinking he's a good football coach?
Yeah, what the hell do you do as an organization to hire that guy?
Hold on, and while we're at it, has Peyton Manning apologized to the Jet fans yet? Because it was Peyton Manning's word that got him this job.
Yeah, Peyton did endorse him. For those people that don't know, Peyton Manning did endorse Adam Gase to get Adam Gase a job, and now we might be seeing Adam Gase wreck not only one quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, who ended up needing to get out of there to rejuvenate himself, but now Sam Darnold might be the same case. We're going to go a little over 8 o'clock because we're having some fun. Real quick here, the last couple of minutes, we're going to be talking a little different Big Ten football. We got one of the biggest Ohio State brains that I know. We got one of the biggest Ohio State fans that I know. Real quickly to end the show, we're going to do Big Ten because I'm a Big Ten guy myself. My team didn't go as planned this year. Obviously, I'm not a diehard Penn State guy, but I do root for Penn State. But I must say I root harder for the Big Ten in general. I'm just a big fan of the Big Ten. Yeah. I mean, man, for people that don't watch Big Ten football, they miss some really good battles, and I think we got a good one in store, although I think Ohio State should win. Big Mike, what are your thoughts on Saturday's game, Ohio State, Northwestern Big Ten Championship? It is on, and I'm glad that these people are letting it happen.
I agree, and I will be abbreviated because Friday night at 9 o'clock on the Big Rican channel is going to be the Big Ten Championship game preview. Also on the Facebook page, if anybody catches me on there. Listen, let's start on not my side of the ball, and let's give Pat Fitzgerald a huge kudos. This is the second time in 3 years that these two teams will meet in Indianapolis for the Big Ten Championship. And listen, that game in 2018, until the Bucs started pulling away, that was a game. Yeah. They played really well. That defense is always tough. Of course, Fitz being that linebacker on the last Northwestern team to go to the Rose Bowl. Here's one for you. Darnell Autry was the running back. That's how old I am.
Blast from the past.
So I want to talk about Pat for just a second, then I'll jump into what I think my boys can do.
Sure.
A phenomenal season at Northwestern. Again, second time in 3 years that he has had that team in the Big Ten Championship game. They are a very, very good defense. They are an offense that, if they stay on schedule, can eat clock. But at the end of the day, they got beat by Michigan State, a team that Ohio State hung 52 on with 23 starters out. And I think, unfortunately, and I say it like this because Pat's a great guy, Ryan Day is going to have to boat race him to get into the playoff. And it's going to have to be 2014 all over again. They've got to drop 60 in this game to get it done. Because everybody's now going to talk about, A&M did this and this one did that. Well, here's the bottom line. If they win, they're a 6-0 conference champion, and we have a very good shot at having 2 one-loss teams from the ACC in, which is crap if you ask me.
It's bull crap. To me, if the Big Ten does get represented by their Big Ten championship, which many assume Ohio State will win, as you just said, and not knocking Pat Fitzgerald is, he could be in line for perhaps an NFL opportunity soon. He is a good coach, but there's only so much you can do with that Northwestern program year in and year out. It's a changing of a guard a lot over there, but Ohio State's just a Big Ten's team lately. They ran Harbaugh out of town, perhaps. I think we could see the last of him in Michigan. Probably back to the NFL. I personally...
It's not the last of him in Michigan because he's going to end up in Detroit with the Lions.
Wow, that would be wild if he ended up in Detroit with the Lions. And I do think he is better fit in the NFL than college at this point in time. But
I remember it was, you ready for this? It was 6 years ago, about this time, that Michigan hired him. And I remember all the memes and all the Michigan fans. We got Harbaugh. And I was sending stuff to him. It was a picture of Urban. That's great. I got a championship to win. And what I thought I was going to see, because I'm not that old, I thought I was going to see the reincarnation of the 10-year war.
Yeah.
Which, I have a thing on my YouTube playlist. It is a movie about the rivalry. And the 10-year war is the biggest piece of it. So I was getting excited. And then the first year they went up and they smoked them. And I'm like, okay, first year, what have you. The 2016 game was 2 versus 3. It was a great game. 2017, again, good game. The last 2, and what would have been 3 had they not punked out, you're talking 30-point whoopings the last 2 games they played. And they would have hung 70 on this team. I don't have any fear of saying it. If there's a fan of the Maize and Blue that's watching and they got something to say, bring it. But we'd have hung 70 on you. Ryan Day said he was going to hang 100 on them.
I don't know how amazing that blue team's been this year. They barely, been able to handle people like Rutgers and whatnot. So I think that Michigan has a lot of football things to do. I think Ohio State was a big part of that equation to help run Harbaugh out of town, as Harbaugh was brought in town to try and win those big games and get some good recruiting classes. But Harbaugh, thought he was too big for himself, passed up some good potential quarterbacks for guys that he thought were the chosen one. And he did some epic stuff. I know he slept at a kicker's house one time. Some interesting stuff there. Couple more minutes here. I just want to hear your final thoughts on Saturday's Big Ten matchup.
Listen, I think it's going to be a good game for the first half. I think Northwestern can hang with Ohio State in the first half, but I think the talent on the outside, where Northwestern got beat up by Michigan State a little bit, you're talking about the first pair of wide receivers in Ohio State history to average 100 yards a game. Ever. And I'm talking, you got Chris Carter, Joey Galloway, David Boston, Michael Jenkins. I could go on and on about Michael Thomas.
Terry McLaurin.
Ted Ginn, Santonio Holmes, Anthony Gonzalez, Dane Sanzenbacher. I can keep going. But these are the first two guys to do it. And I'll tell you what, there aren't many corners in the country, I think, that can play them one-on-one. And if the offensive line runs a line of scrimmage and they can run the ball with Sermon and Master Teague and Justin Fields, it's going to be a long afternoon. By the way, I'm shocked it's the high noon game.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I wish it was a little later.
Listen, as long as Gus and Joel are calling the game, I'm good.
Yeah, that is true. They're one of the best in town, Gus and Joel, that combo for sure. And we're wrapping up here with Big Mike Rican on sports. Where can the people follow you at? Where can the people get familiar with your great podcast, which is a part of the Time Skew Podcast Network?
Well, Big Rican, if you want to get me on Twitter, it's at Big Rican on Sport. If you want to get me on Instagram, Facebook, it's Big Rican on Sports. Same thing with YouTube, which is every podcast has a video and audio. The audio is Google, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public. I teased this on the last couple shows, Tony. I don't know if you had a chance to listen. We're doing the Hot Stove Show. Alex is in. We're going to get the boys back together, and we're going to talk hot stove. And on that, I want to ask you one question.
Yep.
Did you see what Colorado wants to do?
Mets, Arenado rumblings.
I don't know. It depends what they have to give up. But I tell you what, I like hitting him in front of Michael Conforto and then Pete Alonso after him.
And if they were a little baseball talk, if they were able to get him, that would perhaps be the swing of the offseason. That's for sure, man. I'd love to do a hot stove with you and Alex.
After the first of the year, I'll get in touch with you guys who want to get through the holidays, which, of course, to you and your family, happy happies. But yeah, let's get through and at the holidays, and then after the first of the year, when this thing really heats up, let's dive in.
Yep, and again, thanks so much for joining us. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to your family as well. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you guys are safe this holiday season.
Thanks, Tone. You guys too.
Yeah, thanks so much. And maybe next Wednesday or the Wednesday after that, we'd be lucky enough to have you back in the Skew Zone.
I'm down.
Thanks so much, Mike. That is Mike from Big Rican on Sports, a great member of the TSPN, great Ohio, great New York sports mind. And you could tell he's amped up for Ohio State Northwestern, which a lot of people are. And the Browns are in the thick of the playoffs too. So what a time to be alive for him. Ohio State, Cleveland Browns, two football teams doing really, really, really big things and during this holiday season. So I think that's incredible. He has a lot to look forward to with the sports teams. Man, it's already 8:08. I'm 8 minutes over, but that's what happens when you have incredible guests in the Skew Zone, such as Mike, such as Cody, and such as Billy. I just want to thank you guys so much for joining tonight into the Skew Zone. You can follow them at their places they name. They each name their Twitter. You can follow me at Tricky Tones BGTE. You could follow my podcast. You could look there as well on my Twitter, and it has all that good stuff. So I'm Tampa Tones. Thanks again to Big Rican on Sports for covering the Browns and talking Ohio State. Thanks so much to Cody G for talking Bucks. Thank you, Billy, for talking Bears. Until next week, the Skew Zone's out.